All right, y'all. So People Magazine came out with this big article that's all over the place by now. Britney Spears is out here promoting her upcoming memoir, as well as speaking about some of her experiences in the industry under the conservatorship. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. All the real niggas, they walk with a switch. Shaking ass with a broken wrist. I'm cutty, I'm pussy and Chris. Now, real quick, just some announcements before we get into this article. The song that you just heard is called Walk with a Switch off of my newest album, Gag Reflex. Make sure that you check my description box. Stream it. It's on all streaming platforms. Get into it. Also, every single Tuesday, I release another podcast episode exclusively on patreon.com/AdrianExpression for all the patrons. So make sure you check that out, as well as my fantasy ebook. Like, it's content. It's content. I'm here. I'm doing it. So let's get into this article, because, I mean, we got an excerpt from her memoir. We got Britney Spears just opening up about everything that happened. So it says here, Britney Spears opens up, finally free to share her story in a bombshell memoir and new interview. So let's breeze through some things here. We already know the legal victory of the conservatorship ending set the stage for a second act that is both exhilarating and tricky. Britney Spears says, learning this new freedom, I'll admit, is challenging at times. Britney wants to reclaim her voice. Over the past 15 years, or even at the start of my career, I sat back while people spoke about me and told my story for me. After getting out of my conservatorship, I was finally free to tell my story without consequences from the people in charge of my life. And just some of the things that she just talks about in this excerpt that we're going to get into from her memoir, The Woman in Me. Just some of the things she talks about, so chilling and haunting, like, for real. Britney said that those dark moments, those hard moments in her life is hard to speak about. Obviously, some of those moments include not getting a moment of peace, the judgments from strangers who don't even know me, having my freedom stripped away from me by my family and the government, and losing my passion for the things that I love. So it's finally time for me to raise my voice and speak out. My fans deserve to hear it directly from me. No more conspiracy, no more lies. Just me owning my past, present, and future. So let's get into what she wrote, right? So this part is when she talks about being cast on the Mickey Mouse Club show thing at age 11. We kind of get a glimpse into the life of a child actor, or at least, back then. She said being in the show was boot camp for the entertainment industry, extensive dance rehearsals, singing lessons, acting classes, time in the recording studio, and school in between. And keep in mind, she's 11 doing all this. It was honestly a kid's dream, unbelievably fun, particularly for a kid like me, but it was also exceptionally hard work. We would run choreography 30 times in a day. Like, what the hell? Trying to get every step perfect. She talks here about meeting and connecting with Justin Timberlake for the first time. She said, once at a sleepover, we played Truth or Dare, and someone dared Justin to kiss me. A Janet Jackson song was playing in the background as he leaned in and kissed me down. Now, when the show ended, she talks about how she went back home and tried to settle into a normal teenage life, or she says the closest thing to normal that was possible for her. She said, there was something so beautifully normal about that period of my life, going to homecoming and prom, driving around our little town, going to the movies. But the truth was, I missed performing. So she just says here that she recorded a demo. I guess it was supposed to go to Toni Braxton, or something that Toni Braxton had recorded for her second album, but she didn't end up using. So that's what she used to get signed. I ended up getting a record deal with Jive Records at the age of 15, and the label wanted me in the studio immediately. Okay, she said, I worked for hours straight. My work ethic was strong. If you knew me then, you wouldn't hear from me for days. I would stay in the studio as long as I could. She wanted to get things perfect. They were giving her more stuff to do, dancing and stuff. She was like, yeah, I want to do it. And then so just getting a peek into like what it is. And, we already know some of these things in general, but like to hear it from Britney's perspective, like what she had to go through 30 times, going through choreography 30 times in a day, you know what I mean? Running through all types of lessons and, practice and rehearsals, all type of shit. And then having to do school in between all of that. And I'm just like, okay, I just feel like, all right, maybe there is a big debate that needs to happen about like kids or child actors or kids even involved in Hollywood in the first place. Because I'm like, if y'all doing this, like, are y'all actually making sure that these kids' mental health is all right, or are y'all just surrounded by a bunch of parents who want to push their kids forward no matter what to get the biggest check that they can? You know what I mean? Like, are we actually, is the industry actually checking in on these kids, like the state of these kids' mental health? And it's just like, no. A lot of times these parents are just, you know, you better go out there and make it look good. It's millions of dollars on the line. We got a record deal here. And then, you know what I mean? These companies, especially back then, are just like, all right, your parents signed off on these documents, girl. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You better get your ass out there. You know what I mean? And so it's just about the coin. It's about the coin. It's about the coin. It's about the coin. And it's like, yes, of course, she was just like, yes, I had fun. As a kid, I had fun. But at the same time, it's like I was being worked nonstop. And so this is her younger years. We didn't even get to, you know, her being older yet. Now we are about to, though. So she talks here. This is kind of a funny moment, right? Where she talks about doing the 2001 MTV VMA Awards, the one when she had the snake, right? She said, the plan was for me to sing I'm a Slave for You, and we decided I would use the snake as a prop. It's become an iconic moment in the VMA's history, but it was even more terrifying than it appeared. All I knew was to look down because I felt if I looked up and caught its eye, it would kill me. In my head, I was saying, just perform, just use your legs and perform. But what nobody knows is that as I was singing, the snake brought its head right around to my face, right up to me, and started hissing. Now that shit would have freaked me out too. And then you gotta be performing, giving the camera face and giving body and shit while this snake is in your fucking ear hissing at you, bitch. And so she was like, I was thinking, are you fucking serious right now? The fucking goddamn snake's tongue is flicking out at me right now. Finally, I got to the part where I handed it back. Thank God. So that was funny because, like, we looking at that moment was iconic. Like, it's just going to be remembered forever. And here she was freaking out the whole time, which honestly, I would be too. Well, actually, I wouldn't be because I wouldn't have picked up that goddamn snake in the first place, bitch. We're going to have to use a fake one. Y'all gonna have to come up with some kind of robotic ass snake, bitch, because I'm telling you right now, I'm not picking that hoe up. So the fact that she even did that is just like, I mean, it's iconic. It's iconic. Here she talks about filming her first movie, Crossroads. She discusses her acting career and why she was relieved when it basically ended. So she said, the experience filming the movie wasn't easy for me. My problem wasn't with anyone involved in the production, but with what acting did to my mind. I think I started method acting, only I didn't know how to break out of my character. I really became this other person. Some people do method acting, but they're usually aware of the fact that they're doing it. I didn't have any separation at all. I ended up walking differently, carrying myself differently, talking differently. I was someone else for months while I filmed Crossroads. That was pretty much the beginning and end of my acting career, and I was relieved. This part about the Notebook had a lot of people talking. She said the Notebook casting came down to me and Rachel McAdams. And even though it would have been fun to reconnect with Ryan Gosling after our time on the Mickey Mouse Club, I'm glad I didn't do it. If I had, instead of working on my album In the Zone, I'd have been acting like a 1940s heiress day and night. So Britney was like, all right, shout out to everybody, I had fun, but I need to be working on In the Zone, and I'm glad that she did. No shade, like, bitch, that's an album for your ass. But she was like, yeah, girl, I'd rather be working on the music than walking around, prancing around with Ryan. No shade, like, love you, boo. But she's like, I had to focus on the music. She goes on about acting a little bit more here. She said, I imagine there are people in the acting field who have dealt with something like that, where they had trouble separating themselves from a character. I hope I never get close to that occupational hazard again. Living that way, being half yourself and half a fictional character is messed up. After a while, you don't know what's real anymore. And so I'm just like, if she's going through this as, right, like she was older here, she was an adult here, when she was filming in 2002. So I'm just like, if you're going through that as like an older adult, I can't imagine the kinds of things that like child actors or people who are, or kids who are in front of cameras and on stages all the time, like what they go through, right? And especially, like, I'm gonna keep referencing the parents because I just feel like so many of these child actors, so many of these, you know, entertainers in general get so fucked over by their parents, especially they're young in the industry, by their parents, by the people who are around them. Obviously, we see here in this case, but it's just like, I think if it can really mess with the minds of adults, I can only imagine what it does to the minds of people who have been, you know, stars since the moment they had consciousness. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, that's another thing to think about. Okay, and here is another part of the article that a lot of people were talking about as well online, because she talks here about why she shaved her head, shaving her head, why she did it, and what her father did to her self-image. So she said, I'd been eyeballed so much growing up. I've been looked up and down, had people telling me what they thought of my body since I was a teenager. Shaving my head and acting out were my ways of pushing back. But under the conservatorship, I was made to understand that those days were now over. I had to grow my hair out and get back into shape. I had to go to bed early and take whatever medication they told me to take. That's scary as hell. Like, that is scary. And here, oh my goodness, why do so many of these fathers in the industry, I mean, mothers do it too, but I'm just like, damn, so many of the fathers be so infamous. Joe Jackson, this motherfucker here. Listen, this is what she said. If I thought getting criticized about my body in the press was bad, it hurt even more from my own father. He repeatedly told me I looked fat and that I was going to have to do something about it. So not only you going through all that shit as a child, you going through all the shit in the press, they dragging shit at your ass, then from your own father. Like, I wish she could have said, you take your brittle ass up on that stage and you hit an 8 count like me, ho. Talking about what I'm doing. I wish she could have said that shit, but now she can, girl. I hope you didn't say that shit to his annoying ass, girl. Anyway, she said, I would do little bits of creative stuff here and there, but my heart wasn't in it anymore. As far as my passion for singing and dancing, it was almost a joke at that point. Feeling like you're never good enough is a soul-crushing state of being for a child. He'd drummed that message into me as a girl, and even after I'd accomplished so much, he was continuing to do that to me. I became a robot. And I remember, I mean, a lot of people looked at her when she was on stage and was just like, what is going on? Like, they were like, you know, they did call her robot and this and that. And she said, yes, I was. She was like, yes, I was, because they killed the creativity in me. I had to be what they wanted me to be, and I couldn't be myself. So of course, like, all the passion for what I used to love is gone. She said, I became a robot, but not just a robot, a sort of child robot. I'd been so infantilized that I was losing pieces of what made me feel like myself. The conservatorship stripped me of my womanhood, made me into a child. I became more of an entity than a person on stage. I had always felt music in my bones and my blood. They stole that from me. And so she says here, like, if they just let me do what I need to do, let me live my life as a whole adult woman, I would have followed my heart and come out of this the right way and worked it out. She said it would not have ended up like this, but so much was out of her control. 13 years went by. 13 years went by with me feeling like a shadow of myself. I think back now on my father and his associates having control over my body and my money for that long, and it makes me feel sick. Think of how many male artists gambled away their money, how many had substance abuse or mental health issues. No one tried to take away their control over their bodies and money. I didn't deserve what my family did to me. And she goes on here like she's really dragging that ass. I'm so happy that she is. She said, the thing was, I accomplished a lot during that time when I was supposedly incapable of taking care of myself. I sometimes thought that it was almost funny how I won those awards for the album I made while I was supposedly so incapacitated that I had to be controlled by my family. She's like, girl, I'm out here making money. I'm out here winning awards for the shit I'm making, and y'all are still trying to walk all over me. This last part here was heartbreaking too, because she talked about how she had to regress within herself to survive the conservatorship. She said, this is what's hard to explain, how quickly I could vacillate between being a little girl and being a teenager and being a woman because of the way they had robbed me of my freedom. There was no way to behave like an adult since they wouldn't treat me like an adult. So I would regress and act like a little girl, but then my adult self would step back in. Only my world didn't allow me to be an adult. The woman in me was pushed down for a long time. They wanted me to be wild on stage the way they told me to be, and to be a robot the rest of the time. I felt like I was being deprived of those good secrets of life, those fundamental supposed sins of indulgence and adventure that makes us human. And she said it was a death to her creativity as an artist. It took me a long time and a lot of work to feel ready to tell my story. I hope it inspires people on some level and can touch hearts. Since I've been free, I've had to construct a whole different identity. I've had to say, wait a second, this is who I was, someone passive and pleasing, a girl, and this is who I am now, someone strong and confident, a woman. So just reading all of the things that she has to say in this just small piece of her memoir and this article, it just recontextualizes a lot of stuff, especially having grown up hearing all kinds of headlines and reading all, and listening to Britney's music and all that. Like, obviously she's a huge star, but having grown up in that era and seeing all the stuff, right, and seeing everything that was reported and seeing what she was going through just for face value, I think now it just really clarifies a lot of things and puts a lot of things in a different kind of light. And I'm also glad that this conversation about conservatorships is happening not only with Britney, but also Michael Oher, the football player who was the subject of The Blind Side. It's just so insane how people will really look at, and Michael Oher was the one out there running in the field doing the work. Britney was the one out there, you know, going on the stages, memorizing choreography, doing the shit. It's so crazy how those people who are supposed to be, you know, closest to them, taking care of them, just completely bulldozed them, just completely, you know, shat on them for money, for coin, to try and take advantage of them. And I just can only imagine how many other situations are happening just like this. And it's just like, these people, Britney Spears rich and famous. How many people are going through this shit and they're not fucking rich? You know what I mean? They're not rich and they're not famous and they're going through this. It's just like, if something like this can happen to Britney or whoever, it's like, how is this particular thing being abused or being misused in other situations where people who are, you know, with people who are not as, they don't have as much support, they don't have as, you know, fans telling other people, hey, you know, this person is in danger. They don't have that kind of shit. And even then, Britney still had to endure so much of it before it was even, you know, before it even took the forefront of the conversation. So it's just an all around unfortunate situation. But I'm so happy that, you know, she's out of it. She's free from that shit. But it really, it lends itself to an unfortunately common theme of so many people being abused, just tortured, exploited in the industry. And I'm just like, something got to give, girl. Something's got to give. But yeah, that's it, y'all. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for watching. Please check my description box for even more content, more information. Love y'all so much, and make sure that you have a good goddamn day.
Holy worship me, yeah, you can blow me. I ain't the only, you so lonely, insecure, they don't control me. I ain't the only, holy worship me, yeah, you can blow me. I ain't the only, you so lonely, insecure, they